Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Cup of Joe show. I'm Joe. That's Jeremy. We're bringing you the Purple Blob. Blah! Right at you. Uh, we have not a lot to talk about today, but I'm sure we'll probably stretch it to 20 minutes somehow. Nothing came out last week, so we didn't see any movies. Um, but let's just we're going to quickly delve into um, the Sony leaks, if you will, not the WikiLeaks, the Sony leaks. Maybe they'll make a better movie about it. I don't know. You think that like another company could make a movie about the Sony leaks? I guess not. But would Sony have the rights to their own leaks
I
to
don't.
make a movie about
I
it?
don't know this actually. That's interesting.
That would be interesting. You know what would probably save Sony is them making a movie about the Sony leaks. I think that might do it. But here's the deal: Sony's kind of in shambles. Their movies aren't, they're not the greatest. And the one franchise that they actually have going for them, they seem determined to ruin. So that being Spider-Man, it it did make $718 million worldwide, something like that. More than $700 million. But anyway, that's not the point at the moment. There were Sony emails leaked, and a bunch of different things, starting with Marvel and Sony talking about a crossover bringing Spider-Man in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and ultimately the emails went through, and it was just like both sides wanted creative control, so that kind of failed, which is understandable. Other emails that were leaked were for the Steve Jobs biopic. I thought that already happened, but I guess they're trying to make a better one, understandably. Called Jobs, and if you've been following news on Jobs, that has all just that's been a disaster.
The new one's just going to be called Steve.
Yeah. Right. So, what was the one called with Ashton Kutcher?
Jobs.
Really? So they're calling this one Jobs as well?
I guess.
That's strange. Okay. But anyway, so apparently, when they first tried to set up Jobs, it seemed like this is going to be great. They got Fincher, they got Aaron Sorkin to write, Fincher to direct, which has worked in The Social Network, and apparently, according to the emails, Angelina Jolie came in for her project Cleopatra, that was also for Sony, and said that she wanted Fincher. And, gosh, I wish I knew these people's names. I'm going to go with Amy Pascal at Sony.
Sure.
Amy, if you're watching, sorry. But she's trying to cater to Angelina Jolie while another person at Sony is saying, we have Fincher and we have Sorkin for this job, let's just do it. For this job on Jobs, and let's just do it. And there were harsh emails back and forth. I think in the end they lost Cleopatra, and Jobs is just, they lost Fincher. I guess Danny Boyle's on it. They've lost Leonardo DiCaprio. They've lost Christian Bale to play Jobs. So that project's in shambles. Another ridiculous thing is that Sony wants to cross over Men in Black and 22 Jump Street. I have no idea. But that is no surprise to me, considering they want to make a movie about Aunt May, simply. So, Jeremy, what do you think about the state of Sony right now?
They're not in good shape. Um, for a while there, I mean, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies can only carry you so far, really, and they haven't had too many breakout successes. And when you have a mainstream Spider-Man movie that can barely hit 200 million domestic, I mean, what are you expecting from an Aunt May movie? Like 60? Like that's going nowhere. Honestly, I think a Men in Black and 22 Jump Street or 21 Jump Street, whatever, crossover could be interesting.
Definitely.
And,
Definitely.
the universe of 21 Jump Street is absurd enough that, I would just go with aliens.
Mm-hmm.
But that could also be really, really terrible. Probably would be bad.
That's true.
As for the other news, I obviously love the idea of bringing Spider-Man into the Avengers. I heard about them possibly bringing him in for Captain America: Civil War, which would be really good because Spider-Man was a very, very important part of that storyline in the comic books. But the script for that is pretty much done, so if they're gonna put him in that, it would pretty much just be a cameo, or like an introduction to his character or whatever. And also, if the MCU is gonna have a Spider-Man, it can't be Andrew Garfield, and that's bad because I like him in the role. But then again, because it wouldn't be the same universe, and that's going to confuse the casual moviegoers. They're going to be like, well, wait, Andrew Garfield is in these, but he's in those, but it's not the same Spider-Man, so that would be confusing. So he would have to be recast, and I don't know, but I hope they can work that out.
Yeah. It's in general, Sony's just a joke. It's funny because all these, even like they weren't shocking to me. That's what's funny. I mean, that's how bad like Sony has been. I mean, they're successful projects. I mean, Spider-Man is still successful. It doesn't mean like it's not successful. So right now they have Spider-Man. They have 21 Jump Street. Like that's all I could think of that they really have that's successful. But anyway, yeah, there you go. Sony in shambles. Not shocking, but very funny too that they had their emails leaked. Maybe at some point we'll get back to you on the fact if they can make a movie about their own leaks. So anyway, in the meantime, let's move on to last week's box office.
Alrighty, well, last week was the week after Thanksgiving, and traditionally that's pretty terrible. This weekend didn't change that. So number 5 was Interstellar. That was down 51% to 7.8 million. Total of 158.5. Still seems headed for about 175-ish domestically, which, really is not that bad. I just think that the hype and expectations were set a bit too high here. And by a bit too high, I mean way too high. Number 4 was Big Hero 6. That fell 57% to 8 million. Total of 177.5. So Big Hero 6 continues its slow march toward 200 million, continues to run a little bit ahead of the pace of Wreck-It Ralph. Still seems headed for like 205-ish. Number 3 was Horrible Bosses 2. That was down 46% to 8.4. Total of 35.9. Much like last weekend, the story on this is that's absolutely terrible. All things considered, that drop actually isn't bad, and it's one of the better ones in the top 10. But, when the opening was that awful, it doesn't really make a difference. Okay, number 2 was Penguins of Madagascar. That was down 57% to 10.9 million, bringing its total to 49.4. That's not good. I know it's coming off Thanksgiving, which tends to be a bit propped up because it's a holiday. But even still, that's really not a good drop, especially considering it didn't open to that much. So it hasn't even made 50 million yet. So after 2 weekends, it's not even close to the opening weekends of the last 2 Madagascar movies. So maybe this will make studios think twice about some cash grab spin-offs, or just make this direct to DVD or whatever. At any rate, our number 1 film for the 3rd weekend in a row was Mockingjay. That was down 61% to 22 million and has a total of 258.2. Obviously still way behind Catching Fire. I think it's like 70, 80 million, maybe more behind. But that's mostly because of the opening weekend. After that, their drops have been pretty similar. So, Mockingjay is going to find its way over 300, not by much. I cannot see it catching Guardians of the Galaxy. But, I guess we'll have to see if Part 2 can, go back up a little. Maybe Lionsgate will slap on some 3D to try to, mitigate things, but we'll see.
Or maybe they'll have a crossover with the Expendables. I don't know. You guys,
Or Divergent.
Yeah, think about it, guys. Think about it. All right. Yeah, so I guess those numbers, Mockingjay being on top, not surprising. Penguins, I just think I just think that animated movies, I don't want to say have come so far, but especially this year, the animated movies that have come out, they've been like they've been intelligent and and fun for the whole family, and I just feel like it's obvious that Penguins is a drop off from the Lego Movie, How to Train Your Dragon, and Big Hero 6, just looking at the previews, and it's just like, I don't know if parents would be like, let me take my kids to these more, in intelligent and film, but because I don't think Penguins was a bad movie. I just think it was a drop off from the other great animated films that have come out this year. So, I don't know, but I'm probably putting too much thought into it. Let's see, saw Interstellar for the 4th time, and there's still still a decent crowd out there. And then once those credits roll, man, just silence. It's an incredible thing to just to be there and just to witness that, like, kind of people. It still doesn't hit people yet, or they're milling it over, and it's just like, or the shock of it all, and it's just like that's that Nolan film silence when exiting the theater. It's a really cool thing to witness. I know it has nothing to do with the box office, but yeah. So I guess uninteresting week, but we'll have more interesting weeks in the weeks to come. So let's move on to let's discuss what's coming out this weekend. I want to discuss top 5 real quick. Apparently that's a limited release. I didn't know that until 15 minutes ago. So this movie is actually, I didn't expect it, but I mean, this movie is really certified fresh Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's like 90% or something. So I mean, honestly, good for Chris Rock and his directorial writing, whatever, debut. because this trailer doesn't look that good, like, at all. Kevin Hart's in it, and he made me laugh because he's Kevin Hart, and I just like Kevin Hart, so I just think his delivery of things is just hilarious. So, but you have like Cedric the Entertainer, who I've never thought is funny in it. Tracy Morgan, who isn't really funny. I've always loved Chris Rock, actually. So I mean that's interesting, but it just seems like he's involved in this like love interest story instead of being funny. So I don't know. Like, I feel like the trailer doesn't look good, but I mean these reviews are definitely intriguing. And another part that bothers me in the trailer is the last thing you see in the trailer is like not funny at all, but it's hilarious to quote. Watch this. Can I get some of those hangers, man? They got the lock on them. They got the lock on them. And the trailer ends. That's your punchline of the trailer. But it's like, it'd be hilarious. Just walk up to somebody, go to their house, and just be like, can I get some of those hangers, man? And just be like, no, they got the lock on them. They got the lock. And then walk out of the house. People will be stunned at first, but a week later they'll laugh hysterically. So maybe that's the impact this movie has on you. I have no idea. But anyway, do you have any thoughts on top 5?
Well, I do like Chris Rock. I think he's kind of underrated as far as comedians go. But I don't really think this movie looks funny or interesting. Given the good reviews, it strikes me as one of those things where, it's one of those movies that like gets good reviews and is like good in like a critical kind of way, but then like the average moviegoer goes to see it and you're like, this isn't funny. So I mean, I'm not interested. It's not even getting released in 1,000 theaters, so I don't expect it to make more than $10 million.
Right. Yeah, Chris Rock, hilarious stand-up. Yeah, the same with Kevin Hart, but Cedric the Entertainer, man, I don't know. But anyway, they got the lock on them. They got the lock. All right. So let's move on to Exodus: Gods and Kings. Interesting project. You got Ridley Scott, the underachiever for 15 years. And, you got Christian Bale, you got Joel Egerton. You basically have a bunch of white guys playing Egyptians. And we'll see if that works, but reviews don't look very good. I am not surprised. I will see this, but I am not surprised because of Ridley Scott's track record since Gladiator, which is why in the trailer it says the director of Gladiator, the movie that came out 14 years ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, Ridley Scott hasn't done anything good since Gladiator. Prometheus is awful, and if you disagree, you're wrong. Your opinion is wrong. It's an objectively terrible movie. No one will ever convince me otherwise. So that's that. Exodus, when I heard about it, and who was in it and everything, I was like, okay, alright, this could be a solid movie. But, the reviews aren't there. The whitewashing of the cast doesn't bother me at all. I don't understand why that's even a story or an issue. That never even occurred to me, watching the trailer until I heard about that. So I don't understand that. But I guess those are my thoughts. As for a prediction based on early Friday numbers and everything, it's really not looking good. And it's looking like Exodus is going to open to about like 25 million, which is, way below Noah from earlier in the year, and, might even be less than Son of God, which, was obviously not a big budget Hollywood film, so not good.
I'll give you a part of this trailer that's hilarious too. I am the God. I am the God. Yep. So, look for this to be a stinker. Flop? Are we in flop territory?
Yeah.
Might be a flop. We'll let you know next week. Bye.